So in continuing with the ADAPT theme for the next hour and 15 minutes, we look forward to this presentation in California from Cristina Moon from Chabot College and the rest of her team. I'll let her introduce, who've been working on multiple projects, several of which with ADAPT, and I will let her present what she's doing. So take it away, Cristina.
Thank you, Delmar. So welcome. Good morning, those of you on the West Coast, East Coast. I guess it's good afternoon. Any language instructors out there? If not, there'll be, and specifically Spanish, we'll be sharing our journey, let's put it that way, because it has been quite a journey on trying to create, adapt Spanish OER. And although our team started with a group of friends from UCLA, since that's how I went to my friends from grad school years, it has grown to include other people from other institutions. So I'll be, we have pictures with our teammates here, but here today, I'm Cristina Moon. I teach Spanish at Chabot College. We also have Alejandro Lee, who is at Santa Monica College. We have Sarah Harmon at Cañada College, and Hugo Díaz-Rodil, who teaches at Sierra College and American River College. But our team, this is our team that has come in at different stages from our 3 projects that we have worked on the last few years. And so Nancy is the only one that is not here today, but yes, we want to acknowledge these are, it's great to work as a team, not only because lessen the burden of the work, because I didn't want to write it on my own, but also it creates diversity. You know, we teach at different institutions, different parts of California, and we are able to bring all that into our work. So it is great to see that it doesn't, and you can always customize it to your college, but to create a work that is shared across, at least in our case, for our California students, but also hopefully anybody that teaches Spanish across the state. Alejandro?
Okay, hi, my name is Alejandro Lee. I'm currently in Panama, and I will speak a little bit about what we have been doing since 2020. So we launched our first OER Spanish called Entrada Libre, which is a grammar manual. It's not a textbook, because we were using Acceso, an OER from the University of Kansas. One of the reasons why many faculty do not adopt comprehensive and accessible OER was the lack of homework. So we had to pay for the publishers' homework platforms such as MyTab, Connect, Vista, Supersite, and MyLab. And I remember Cristina asking me, I don't want my students to pay for the homework. So would you like to help me write homework so we can provide that for free? So in 2023, we released our second project, Tarea Libre, free homework. That's the translation into English, which is a homework collection of about 1,400 activities for first-year Spanish courses. A year later, we continue with our third project, Tarea Libre 2, for second year. And at that time, we were not thinking of doing a second year. So that's why we say Tarea Libre and then Tarea Libre 2. Next, Cristina. So currently, we are updating our first OER Entrada Libre, and we would like to complete it by the end of the semester this year. And some of the common themes of our OERs is they're all open license. We follow the California ID model. We also implement the IDEA framework of accessibility as a natural part of the work. And then we decided to choose LibreText for our OER, and then the ADAPT platform for our homework. The funding came
Thank you, baby.
The funding came from different places. The Academic Senate of California Community Colleges Open Educational Resource Initiative. LibreText was also very generous in helping us for our last project. And we also received California Community Colleges CTC grants, which is zero textbook costs. Next. So for the impact of our first projects, you can see that for Entrada Libre, the web traffic exceeded almost 500,000 page views from 2020, and it's still growing. We have 833 days of confirmed student reading, likely more that cannot be tracked, and numerous text remixes, which will be taught in later this week, hosted on the LibreText Humanities Library. Through spring 2024 for Tarea Libre, the first year homework, 1/3 of the 500 active or past active courses on the platform were using Tarea Libre questions. About 5,000 students and about 800,000 submitted answers. That's the record that we have. And Tarea Libre is the most active OER collection on the ADAPT homework system. Next. Entrada Libre, as I mentioned, is a grammar manual. And at that time, we didn't have too many resources. So we had to use whatever was available. We decided to create 24 grammar topics that are covered in most intermediate and advanced Spanish textbooks and courses. We looked for readings with examples of grammar points in context. We explained the grammar in Spanish. And at that time, we had access to H5P exercises, and the exercises we created were self-graded. Later on, they will explain to you why we don't really use too much H5P. Next. So the Tarea Libre from 2023, we had about 1,400 activities divided in 2 modules. So each module has 7 per semester. And we had about 4 to 5 sections per module with vocabulary and grammar. Each module would have 5 steps of difficulties, pasos, for vocabulary and grammar exercises. So preliminary, empecemos, let's start, continuemos, let's continue, practiquemos, let's practice, avancemos, let's take it beyond. We also had 3 comprehensive assessments per module. Hablemos, let's talk, escuchemos, let's listen, and leamos, let's read. And to your right, you're going to see how it looks under the platform, the ADAPT platform. Next. So for Tarea Libre 2, this is the second year homework collection. We have fewer activities, 800 activities divided in 8 modules, 4 modules per semester, and is connected to Acceso from the University of Kansas. And similarly, we have 4 to 5 grammar sections, and we also kept the 5 steps of difficulty. We did add de todo un poco, which is a potpourri of topics. So empecemos, let's start, continuemos, let's continue, practiquemos, let's practice, avancemos, let's go beyond, and de todo un poco would be the potpourri. We also continue with the comprehensive assessments. Hablemos, escuchemos, and leamos, but as of last year, LibreText developed a new tool called Discuss It, Conversemos, and Cristina will talk more about that later. So for our last project on Tarea Libre 2, we decided to only use ADAPT platform native questions and not H5P. And so there are several auto-graded native questions such as fill in the blanks, multiple choice, select choice, matching, and highlight text. And these are some examples of select choice, the matching, and then the highlight text. And I think that my colleague Hugo will continue explaining the next ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. So within ADAPT, Alejandro has just shown us some of the options of some of the type of activities that we can use. Here we are going to see some of the oral ones. So the first one is an individual oral assessment, and this is for non-auto-graded activities. So we can just choose the type of submission that the students need to complete the work, and this can be an oral recording. So that will be an individual one, it will not be a group one, which is the next one. So for the second one, group oral activity, connected to that new type of activity that Alejandro just mentioned, discuss it. Here, we teachers, instructors can create a threaded discussion of text, audio or video student submission. So that will be a collaborative, that will be a group discussion. Thank you. All right, so here we are gonna see some examples of ADAPT non-auto-graded questions. So following Tarea Libre and Tarea Libre 2, include the sections of Hablemos and Escuchemos. And Escuchemos uses video created in Powtoon. And we have 2 screenshots there of some videos that we have created using Powtoon. And students submit their answers with an oral recording. And I think from here, I think I'm gonna pass it.
No, Hugo, this is still you.
Oh, that's me, perfect. Yeah, 3 better than 2. Audio recordings, hablemos and escuchemos. So again, we are inside of that, we are on the audio recording type of activities, and we are gonna see hablemos and escuchemos. So both are non-auto-graded activities to assess oral and listening skills, very important in our courses. So students can record their responses using the recorder tool in the ADAPT assignment. And now if we look at the bottom left, we see a screenshot of one of those activities. And we see instructions that the students can read to make sure that they know how to record, stop, they can listen to the recording to make sure they are addressing the prompt, and then finally they can click a little button that is the typical save button, which automatically submits their answer. And that's on the first screenshot on the left. Instructors can listen, grade, and provide feedback all in the same page. So second screenshot on the right, you can see a submission from a student called Cristina Moon, and then you can see the grader feedback on the right, where we teachers can enter feedback on the student submission. And that's all very, on the teacher side of the assignment, it's very intuitive, very easy to do. And then you can see at the bottom that you can submit, you can enter a grade, and then you can submit your feedback, which can be written and can be also oral feedback. All right.
Thank you, Hugo. Students could also upload, they could use the widget, which is actually pretty student user friendly, but they're also able to upload an MP3 file if they prefer that. So discuss it. So we're really excited about Discuss It because we were trying to figure out a way to move away from platforms that, there is cost. And in my case, we were using VoiceThread. So last year we came up with this idea of, okay, what if we were able to do beyond the one-on-one submissions that we were doing with Tarea Libre and move on to group type of threads. So Discuss It was born. And why would you, if you teach online or even in person, right, you would like to create a community in your classes, or you have students work in groups, that there are a lot of benefits about why you would want students to work in groups. And for online platforms, there are a few options, some pluses and some minuses. And we wanted to kind of go beyond the typical discussion forums, and that there are limitations on the engagement. You know, students do not like to do, they just do the minimum requirement postings in your discussion boards, I'm sure. And then nowadays, the increase of use AI tools, I'm finding it more and more that students are either using ChatGPT or things like that to write their posts. So the engagement is very very impersonal and also very superficial. So if you want students to be more engaged, and in our language class, like what we teach, having students speak, it is part of what we do. So we wanted to figure out how we can include that in our homework. So if you have ever used or heard of any of these platforms, you know, there's a Canvas discussion with Studio, Extemporo, Flip. Anybody heard of Flipgrid, and what happened to it, right? Used it, but now it's not there anymore, or at least in the form that was there before. The Padlet is very also common. So all pluses and minuses, and Boisterous, like I mentioned. Our college is lucky to have Boisterous for another year left of that very expensive license. So it is not a sustainable model. It's definitely not OER. So we wanted to take all of these and figure out a way of having that even more in a more powerful way in Adapt. So we started discussing last summer with Delmar and on this idea. And within 2 months, we had a prototype, and Sarah and I, we started piloting it in the fall. And beginning of this year, it was launched publicly in Adapt. So if you go to Adapt, you can discuss it as one of the question types. So I'm sure Delmar is gonna go through the steps on how to create a discuss it. And we're gonna show you what it looks like, because I think seeing it's believing, and you're gonna see why probably if you don't care about anything else in Adapt, you know, like the multiple choice, fill in the blanks, you might care about discuss it. I think this is one of the most fun, powerful tools that you can use for engaging students and even faculty, because I think you're gonna see how fun this could be. Now, benefits of Discuss It, obviously, is the fact that it has meets all those accessibility requirements, including captioning and transcription. And that was a problem with Boisterous. Boisterous, at least for foreign languages, it didn't come with that. And even in English, you have to pay extra, which I think is ridiculous. I think that has to be a given. But using Whisper AI, which is through OpenAI, it creates this very, very accurate caption and transcriptions. And here is a screenshot of it. And it highlights as it goes. So as you play, you can see it move. Oops, and I clicked too fast. It currently is available in many languages, and I think it's expanding. But it's one of the most accurate captions that I found, you know, even better than Canvas Studio. For grading, similar to what Hugo showed, you have the grader kind of screenshot here. In this one, you have to set the requirements. In this case, the requirements were for the student to create 2 new threads. One was a requirement, but also the comments that go under, right? So not only the student has to answer the prompts, they also have to go and find another student to leave a comment or a question. So you can all see that, and then they will turn from red to green as the student completes it. And you also set the limit of time if you have audio or video turned on, and also if you have the text turned on, it will also have the option of the minimum number of words that the student would have to complete in order to get a green pass. You see the transcription, which we have found that for us, the grader, you don't sometimes have to listen to all the audio. You could look at quickly the transcript and get an idea. So if you find that something is off in the transcript, you can go and play right there at that moment where you might have questions. So you can do spot checks without having to listen to all the audios, which I'm sure you all do when you do your grading. So it saves you a lot of time. You can do a quick glimpse and get through a lot of these. I do these once a week. So I kind of keep up trying to see the progress of their not only comprehension, but also their speaking. And again, the same way that Hugo showed, you can, you as the grader could leave feedback, either text, or you can also record. So this is new, I think was a few weeks ago, and I'm gonna implement this starting my new session, the summer session that starts today. There is a rubric that you can use, or you can also create a template that you can deploy it in all your Discuss It. And that way you can also use it for grading. So this is what you're gonna see when you create an adapt question. You have properties, primary content, and the last tab will be called rubric. Probably Dharma hasn't gone to this yet, but one of the coolest things about adapt native questions is the idea of cloning. Cloning meaning copying activities. So you can become like a factory of activities. You can make, you can clone an activity and change it. So by clicking on this double paper thing next to the garbage can, you can create a copy of that. You cannot, since let's say you find an activity, you're not the author, so you cannot edit that activity because you're not the author. But the moment that you clone, that breaks it from the original, and now you can change it. So let's say you can take one of these activities, you like some of it, you don't like the instructions, you can go in, clone, and make new instructions and just start using it right away. The adapt platform could also be linked via LTI API. If you use Canvas, Blackboard, one of those LMSs, this has the API linkage where you identify the course and it will automatically show up in your LMS. So this has been wonderful in the sense that you create your course in Adapt, you have all your assignments, your due dates, you identify the Canvas course, and then automatically will show up with all that in Canvas. So I wanted to go ahead and show Adapt, Discuss It, and how it looks before continuing with our presentation. So this one, we've been using it for non-Spanish faculty, just so you can get an idea of how powerful this could be, and anybody could start using it. So this could be an icebreaker activity, could be a welcome, first day of class, where you ask students to introduce themselves, right? So in this one, you're asking students to tell two true facts and one lie, video or audio. And then you have to respond to your classmates and guess which one is the lie, right? And instructions are here. I only have the video and audio turned on. I don't want text because we wanna see people. We wanna hear them, see if you can detect the lie, right? And we have a few samples. So you can see the blues are the main thread. So if I open that, I can see the comments that go underneath, right? So they're kind of nested. So I have 6 responses here. Let's do, is it this one? I'm gonna try to find, no. I wanna try to find Delmar. Yes, this one.
Hello, everyone. My name is Delmar Larson. I am a professor of chemistry at the University of California, Davis. I am also the founder of the LibreText project. That's my introduction. Here are my 3 statements. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. I am a black belt in Kempo Karate. I spent part of my childhood living in the back of a truck. Those are my statements, and I will stop recording.
Okay. Let's see. Which one is the lie? Anybody? Delmar, you should give a prize, whoever gets the lie. Black belt. Okay, number 2 is the lie. Number 1, born in Alaska is the lie. Oh, not born in Alaska. So it's either 1 or 2. Okay, so let's see. We have somebody respond.
Hi, I'm James, and I don't believe that you were born in Anchorage, Alaska.
So James thinks that Anchorage, Alaska is the lie. Delmar, are you there to reveal the lie, or do you want me to say it?
Go for it.
No, you say it. This is you.
I am a blue belt in Kempo, Kempo, not a black belt. That's the lie.
Yeah, and you were born in Alaska.
I was born in Alaska.
Yes. So you kind of get the idea of what this, and we'll share the link so you can go and take a look at we have a lot of other videos. So this one is not a Spanish example, but then I'm gonna move on to the Spanish options. And this one is, you can create, so on top you see these are the number of activities. On this assignment, there are 8. But within the activity, I have, you can call it slides, right? And I use them as groups. So for this activity, students had to go do research on Spain, and they could choose between finding something new about the food, about the people, and sports, tourism, culture. And then they come back, and then they post about those things. So the idea was it's something that we do in class, but in a more interactive way, and I gave an example, so this was
¿Sabían que desde Tarifa uno puede ver la costa norte del continente de África? Así que si pueden ver en esta imagen, están las montañas, ¿pueden ver?
So for this one, I wanted to share the screen, so I uploaded an MP4, which is also an option if you don't want to use the recorder within Adapt. And then you have, Alejandro came in and said,
Gracias, Cristina, por tu video sobre Tarifa. Me encanta España y me encantaría visitar esta ciudad.
so you kind of get the idea of how you could use that one. We also included other examples. I do want to share one that I really enjoyed, is this idea of creating a chain story. I had students come and choose an image, because each of these groups have different images, and they have to create a story based on the image, a chain story. So first student comes in, records the first part, second student comes in, records the second part, and so on. And the last person would have to come in and listen to all the other people in front of them and end the story. And this has become probably the most fun activity that we have been able to do, not only because finally the first students that come in get the advantage of not having to listen to everybody, and the last person, the lagger in the group, will be paid their dues by having to listen to everybody and finishing the story. And it has been quite a nice way of trying to use the power of this discuss it. So I I hope that you that teach other disciplines can think of different ways. If I could have Delmar try it for his chemistry lab class, I think anybody could use it for their classes. Again, there are other examples in here that you can come in. I think we have some, you can put a video that you could have students watch and then come in and talk about the video that they just finished watching. And I think, so we have screenshots of those that we just share, and then I'm gonna continue with the presentation. Sarah?
Okay. Yep. So as you can see throughout the Tarea Libre and Entrada Libre projects, plural, there's been a few pieces that have themes really that have carried through. One of them is this concept of trying to be as open as possible. So you'll notice that all of our work is CC BY NC using Creative Commons licensing with attribution and a non-commercial piece to that license. We've tried to make it as easy to use as possible for those that are very adept at learning and using technology, but also for those that are a little bit have other challenges that just technology may not be their thing. But there's also one really, really important piece that as language instructors in particular, and as you can see, the four of us come from very different backgrounds. You can hear the different accents, including the three native speakers that have already talked. They come from very different parts of the Spanish-speaking world. And then, of course, I am born and raised in California, so I definitely come from a different place. And Nancy as well is also of a different linguistic and cultural background. So we wanted to focus on this concept of inclusivity. It is part and parcel for those of us that teach foreign language, particularly those languages that have multiple linguistic communities, Spanish and English and Mandarin being three of the most common, where they aren't just spoken in one place and not in one dialect. It's multiple countries, multiple speech communities. We also wanted to have Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, as part of how we wrote our content in the first place. We also are all practitioners of high-level pedagogy, so using backwards design to start with what do we want our finished project to look like and kind of work backwards from there, and how do we scaffold everything appropriately, and then of course keeping up with advances and changes. So when we first started Tarea Libre, and I think that's the next slide, Cristina. Oh no, wait, it's not, but you can go ahead and go to the next one. When we first started all of this work, Entrada Libre in particular, the idea framework had not yet been created. But as we started Tarea Libre, the first homework ancillary, we did have that as a framework to have inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism as just part of the content. This is part of our normal. So the Open Educational Resources Initiative out of the State Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, that came out in 2022. It's been revamped as of this year, but it's just brought up to date. It does focus on culturally responsive pedagogy, but goes well beyond that. It was something that was already, even though it wasn't around for Entrada Libre, a lot of the content already complied with it, unbeknownst to the authors, to the first set of authors. And then of course, every subsequent project has that as a backbone. So how do we do this? We pull from everything. We're pulling from different Spanish-speaking communities around the world, not just those that are traditionally presented. So we have, for example, cultural readings or activities revolving around Spanish, yes, in Latin America and yes, in Spain, but also the Philippine Islands and Equatorial Guinea, where Spanish is an official language in both places. We wanted to include people from African, Asian, Indigenous, and mixed ethnic groups, not simply just what a stereotypical Spanish speaker may look like or may represent. We wanted to include everybody. And we made an intention to include LGBT plus communities in both the US and around the Spanish-speaking world. Next slide. We did this in the content of what we wrote. We did this with respect to the images we used, including the images we created. So on the left side, you see one of our Powtoon videos, and you see, for example, one woman is African-American presenting, and she's in a wheelchair. Another woman is European-American presenting, but she's also potentially older and not necessarily just young and spry and youthful. And then the male that we have there could be of a number of different ethnicities. On the right side, you see one of our readings from the first Tarea Libre, and this is revolving around a clothing designer from Guatemala who has Down syndrome and has been a major player in high fashion for a little bit now. So it's been very interesting to look for examples to bring in and showcase to our students. And the great thing about these projects is we have presented a number of different materials. Each individual Spanish instructor, as they pull from the materials, they can create their own custom group of assignments that they're going to be working with in their classes with their students. So there's multiple ways that you can show what it means to be a Spanish speaker to your students. And that is the beauty of our projects. Next slide. Again, showing more examples. We wanted to include a couple more. So the one on the left has to do with Albert Espinosa, who is a Paralympian. And then on the right side, we had a reading that dealt with, if you love your tacos, you know that one of the famous tacos is tacos al pastor. And very few people probably know the history and origins of tacos al pastor. So we have a reading about that and its connection to the Levantine population in and around Guadalajara and in Mexico City. So to be able to be in Puebla, to be able to present that was fun and different and interesting. Next slide. So that has to do with the representation side of it. But as I said earlier, we also used Universal Design for Learning and a number of other accessibility-based principles with respect to our writing. We wanted to make sure that our materials were as accessible as possible in both senses of that term, that anybody could get them as well as anybody could use them, and especially those who use some kind of adaptive technology. When we first started out with Tarea Libre, the first year homework assignments, all we had available to us was H5P. Adapt came along pretty much as I think we were finishing the third or fourth module out of 14. So we switched pretty quickly. But one of the real issues we had with H5P was the accessibility challenges. There are very few accessible types, question types. And when we say accessible, we're saying that are compliant with WCAG 2.1 or 2.2. And the LibreText folks actually created a beautiful guide on the H5P question types and how they do with accessibility, what are their challenges, whether they should, whether they're recommended to be used or recommended to be avoided. The other thing with H5P that we found, and a number of folks have found, is that it is, if you have a student who needs an alternate pathway, meaning they can't do this type of a question assignment, they need an alternative somehow, some way. If you're using H5P, that's not necessarily easy to set up. And it really takes a lot of extra steps to get that done. The other really important piece that most people don't realize is that H5P was originally a company in Norway. It still exists as a company in Norway, although it has recently been bought by D2L. Of course, they're in Canada. So still we're talking about companies that are not based in the US and are not necessarily following ADA compliance like we have here. Which is important because the Department of Justice is expecting compliance of websites, mobile apps, and instructional materials with respect to technology and accessibility. So they're expecting a certain level of accessibility with the materials we use. So for all these reasons, H5P, I mean, it's lovely, it's pretty. It just doesn't work as well as it should, which is why as soon as we were able to switch to Adapt, next slide, please. As soon as we were able to switch to Adapt, we did for our projects and then for our courses as well. And I'll explain a little bit more on that later on. So one of the things we absolutely loved when in switching to Adapt was that accessibility is built into the bedrock of Adapt. The native question types are widely accessible. And suddenly we got back matching and highlight the text, which is basically like mark the word or mark the text. We got back the drop-down menu option, which in Adapt is called select choice. These question types that are very fun and engaging, we got back with Adapt. So we were so happy to make those, to make that switch. And especially because as long as you come from at least a little bit of a background of universal design for learning, which there are a ton of trainings on, you can go on YouTube and search for it and you can see a ton of them. It's just the basic things to kind of get you set up and ready to go. You can, if you do need alternative pathways, you can create them really easily. The captioning that and transcription that Cristina showed earlier, this is already built into the product, both for what your students submit, as well as if you, as the instructor, the creator, if you create an audio or video component, not embedding like a YouTube video, that's a totally different story. But if you upload your own video as the assignment question, so to speak, the thing that they have to use, the students have to use to interact with, that gets auto-captioned and auto-transcribed very quickly with very high fidelity. And this is just amazing. And then huge shout out to the Adapt folks, because as we were one of the first groups to create using Adapt, we were guinea pigs. So every time we had a question, a comment, a suggestion for a change, a bug, so we sent it up the line and it got resolved pretty quickly. All right. Now I think it's time for our success stories.
Yes. So we wanted to share some of the things, the impacts on all these projects on our own classes and our own schools. So this is kind of a glimpse of at my college. Our Spanish program is 100% zero textbook costs. We teach the main 4 levels, Spanish 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, beginning all the way to advanced. We have the textbook using, there are several remixes as well as for second year, mainly from the first project, Entrada Libre, and the homework has been the key. We kind of managed to have books and remixes, but like Alejandro mentioned at the beginning, the big holdup was the homework. How do we come up with enough activities to leave behind the lock that the publishers had on us and our students, which was those licenses to get access to the homework. So we've been able to use all the pieces, and as of a year and a half ago, all our sections, all our courses are zero textbook cost free at Chabot College.
So for Cañada, it's a little bit of a different story. In the Spanish department, I'm the only one that uses OER, she says embarrassingly. But that said, when I do teach either of our first year collegiate courses, then I do use I openly admit I use Christina's remixes for the textbooks because hers are better than mine. But some time ago when Entrada Libre came out, I created a remix for the second year course, and I'm the only one that teaches the second year course. So I've been using that remix for some time. It is the original Entrada Libre with some other pieces, which I'm happy to say once we put out the second edition of Entrada Libre, I'll be switching to that. So that'll come soon enough. And then of course I use Tarea Libre and Tarea Libre 2 for the two homework ancillaries. But what you see in the image is actually the remix that I use for my Intro to Linguistics course. So I based a chunk of it off of an OER written by Catherine Anderson, who is at McMaster University, I believe, up in Canada, and her team. And then I have a number of my own lecture pieces incorporated throughout. And I've expanded on the topics to be very similar to what we typically teach at the UCs. And I think there's a couple CSUs that have interlinguistics, not too many. And more importantly is because of all my work with Adapt for Spanish, I am now starting the semester coming up. I'll be using Adapt quite a bit for my linguistics course. So already I have some self-check exercises. Those are pretty easy and straightforward. But what I'll be doing is I'll be using Discuss It. Yes, for the weekly journal, which is kind of always been an important thing for that course. But then I am reimagining the term project to do a number of things, obviously the AI component being one of it, but instead of it being just one paper at the end of the semester, it will be literally something that students have to interact with throughout the semester, and I will be using Discuss It for that. So while my Spanish courses are public for Cañada, you can look them up. The linguistic one, interlinguistics probably won't be public until the end of this fall because I want to test it out first, basically is what it is. But once I'm done, it'll be ready and it'll be public.
Hi, this is Alejandro from Santa Monica College, and beginning fall 2026, that's a typo, the AAT Spanish major will be offered as a CTC program. So currently, I received a CTC grant to develop the Spanish 2, the second semester Spanish, to adopt an open educational resource and to make it CTC. Spanish 3, 4, 11, and 12 are already using open educational resources. And so what textbooks are we using? For Spanish 2, I plan to use Tarea Libre 1, the first year homework, and then a remix from first year textbooks, which I haven't made yet because we are still harvesting materials from other textbooks. So hopefully starting next semester, I will start working on a remix. And for Spanish 3 and 4, as I mentioned, we use Acceso by University of Kansas, Entrada Libre, and Tarea Libre 2. For heritage speakers, we use materials by Margarita Casas. And obviously, now that we have access to Discuss It, I would really like to start using Discuss It plus artificial intelligence applications such as PlayLab. That's all for now. Thank you. Hugo?
Thank you, Alejandro. And from Santa Monica College to American River College and Sierra College in North California. So I use Discuss It in my courses at both at Sierra College and also at American River College. Or to begin with, I use all my Spanish courses, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and Spanish 3 are open educational resources. I use open educational resources and they are labeled as CTC, so no cost for the students. So going back to Discuss It, which in the Spanish we call it Conversemos, what I use it for, of course, for discussions, I try to find relevant topics, something that is going to hook the student, that is going to motivate the student to participate using the language. So I choose cultural, social, historical, and also topics about the situation of the Spanish language in different parts of the Spanish-speaking world. Normally, I try to find videos, articles that I include in the discussions that are recent, yeah, fairly recent, at least only maybe a few years old. Now, I also try to find topics that are gonna be fostering, are gonna be encouraging the students to do constructing debates. And I normally choose topics that can be, the students might have different points of view. That way they're gonna be motivated to argument their point of view and advocate in one way or the other. And that's gonna spark more debate. Students learn about aspects of the Spanish-speaking world that might not make news in the US media outlets. And I think that's important because normally in the US, there is many pieces of news every day, but not necessarily from outside the world or from outside the US. So I try to find things that the students probably don't know, and those are topics that are relevant to the Spanish language and culture. Finally, the students need to answer the questions and make meaningful comments to the other students' post. So, of course, that helps develop argumentative skills, which is something I also remind students. Try to, using the Spanish that they are learning, try to build your answers, making sure that you elaborate, back your claims as much as possible, depending on the level, but start working on that, since the students can, there is an interdisciplinary linguistic cross, no? They can apply what they already know in English, those skills into Spanish. And finally, I see that the students are very engaged in the discussions. They participate, they mention the other student comment, and they say, well, I agree with that, but at the same time, I think this should be. So there is quite a bit of a constructive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of what we have in our presentation, that was all. We'll share the deck that has all the links. There are a number of recordings that are available through the ASCCC OERI that are recorded that you can go access. Also wanted to share our Tarea Libre 2 demo. Let me see if I could get to it. So you can kind of also get an idea of the sampling of the type of questions that we kind of created for our last project and how it looks like. So this is select choice, right? This is kind of the drop-down menu. Students will choose, they submit. I didn't do them all. Then this, we are really excited about this one. This is highlight text. And it was created under the nursing project, actually. So you would have to click on all when you go to adapt. It's not under the basic question types, but so click on all, then you will see all of the question types in adapt. And for this one, the students had to only select the imperfect tense, right? So there are a bunch of them that are in yellow, but only the imperfect tense will count towards the grade. So if they pick one that is not, for example, like that one, then it should give them the wrong answer probably right there. So think about how you would use it. If you provide them a text and only certain things, like I think I was trying to think of another example, like you can have fruits and vegetables and you have asking students, just choose the vegetables. Right? And if they pick the fruit, they will get it wrong, type of thing. This is a fill in the blanks. This is matching. You can also have it with images. So you could have images, audio matching with words. What is the next one? Oh, this is a Powtoon video. So for this one, and I haven't, so if you go in as a student, you'll be able to see the widget for the recorder. So the student would have to watch this video and respond these 2 questions using the recorder. So that was kind of an example of how one of our escuchemos looks like. And this is one of our readings. We have the audio embedded. We have the reading also as audio. We have, and then the activity follows, right? So think of it, you can put a text and have students answer questions. It could be a fill in the blanks. We chose to do true, false for this one. And what else do we have? Oh, and then examples of a discuss it. So this one, they had to read by going to the Acceso site and then watch the video and do a discuss it type of assignment. Recording and I think we have another, this is the chain story. So again, all that is in our slide deck. You can go ahead and, kind of look through it to hopefully inspire you to create your own. But remember, you can also clone any of these activities and change it and make it your own. So that's another great thing about the idea of OER, the idea of sharing and being able to adapt somebody else's OER if that's what you would like. Questions about the OER, the Spanish OER. So for example, if you go to here, you can see this is a remix of, actually, I think I did three OERs, and the main one came from SUNY Oneonta, which is one of the most complete for Spanish, first year Spanish. And the nice thing about this, which I'm sure you're gonna get into this in the later days of this week, is the idea that you can remix my remix. And people have done that. You can come in, take this. For example, this image is for my campus, for my college, a mural that is on our wall on one of our buildings. You can come in, obviously you don't care about Chabot College's mural. You can come in and change that. You can remix, you can do all kinds of cool things. You don't have to start from scratch. And I'm sure you're gonna get into that, but the students have access to buying the book from here if they prefer to do that, taking it to your LMS as well. Am I crashing Delmar's agenda? I don't know, but I just wanted to, if you have access to the slide, you'll have access to all our OER remixes. So I think that's all I have on our slide deck in terms of any questions.
Thank you so much, Cristina, and everybody. Yeah, we have time for a couple questions.